Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Well, we're sort of back to normal, sort of. We're getting closer and closer. And this Shabbat is Shabbat Balak. Now, one of the things that we'll read about in just a little bit from chapter 22 and a little bit from chapter 24 is the whole story of Balak, who was the king of Moab, and he hired this Bilam, this evil prophet, the sorcerer from the Aram Naharim, the land between the rivers, or Mesopotamia as we would call it, to curse Israel. And instead of cursing Israel, he came up with the words,
Matovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael.
So it gets us to thinking, why would we include the words at the beginning of a service? And this is traditional to start a service when you come to the sanctuary in the morning with Matovu ohalecha Yaakov. That's on page 192. But why would, and I don't think there's necessarily an answer. It's up for you to come up with some thoughts. But the idea that we have sometimes people, forces, circumstances that seem to plot against us, and to turn those negativities into something positive. I think that's a wonderful way to begin any kind of service, to say, you know what, we're going to look at the world with a little bit more elevated sense. Ma tovu ehelecha Yaakov. How wonderful it is to see congregants, to see friends, to see community back together. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael. Let's read together in English on page 193. Again, the blue numbers in brackets. We say, may the one whose spirit is with us in every righteous deed be with all who work for the good of humanity and bear the burdens of others, who give bread to the hungry, who clothe the naked and take the friendless into their homes. May the work of their hands endure, and may the seed they sow bring abundant harvest.
On page 194, we join together in this blessing for our bodies. Praise to you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who formed the human body with skill, creating the body in many pathways and openings. It is well known before your throne of glory that if one of them be wrongly opened or closed, it would be impossible to endure and stand before you. Blessed are you, Adonai, who heals all flesh, working wondrously. Baruch atah Adonai, rofeh chol basar, umafli la'asot.
The prayer for our spirit is on page 196. Our spirit, our neshama, our soul, as we say, my God, the soul you have given me is pure. You created it, you shaped it, you breathed it into me, and you protect it within me. For as long as my soul is within me, I offer thanks to you, Adonai, my God, and God of my ancestors, source of all creation, sovereign of all souls. Praised are you, Adonai, in whose hand is every living soul and the breath of humankind. Baruch atah Adonai, asher beyado nefesh kol chai, v'ruach kol basar ish. So we're going to do the Nisim b'chol yom. Now we have some congregants, right? So for the longest of times, Susan and I, when we were leading the service, or Dan and Rabbi Jordy, when they were leading the service, we'd look out and there would be no one here. Maybe Ron would be in the back, or maybe Elisa would be in the back. We have people. So we're going to try to do it this way. I'm going to put the mic this way out so that you can be heard, right? You hear yourselves, but there's all these people over on the line who are trying to get your voices, okay? So we're going to do one, and then you do the other. How's that? Does that work? Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lasech v'vina lavchim ben yom u'ben laila. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokei achivri. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim. Amen. Page 200. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rok ha'aretz ha'amayim. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam malbish arumim. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hama'avir sheina me'enai utnuma me'afapai. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani ben chorim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani Yisrael. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ozer Yisrael begivuram. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ozer Yisrael begivuram. Amen. Now, there's an English version of these Nisim B'chol Yom, which you can find on page 201. It's a paraphrase, which I would like us to share, because otherwise the chanting of the Hebrew is beautiful. If you understand the Hebrew, the sentiments within each of these things, each of these Nisim, each of these miracles that we chant, it's marvelous. It focuses on those aspects of our being, of our experiences that all too often we take for granted. But look on page 201, and I think this paraphrase will help us all come so that we sort of feel a sense of our blessings. We say together in English, "As I awaken, let this be my thought. May my day be filled with acts of loving kindness. Let me be drawn by learning and discernment, and may my actions be shaped by mitzvot. Keep me from iniquity, disgrace, and sin. May I not be overwhelmed by temptation or despair. Distance me from evil people and false friends. Let me cultivate a life of goodness. Let my hands reach out in kindness, and I will serve God through acts of righteousness. Today and every day, may I merit your mercy by living my life with compassion and love. Holy One of blessing, draw me to your words. Teach me the art of living. Baruch atah Adonai hamalamed chasidim tovim le'amo Yisrael." Now that's a paraphrase of a part of the Birchot HaShachar, of the traditional blessings every morning. I thought that was very telling an important part of at least my daily tradition. So there's the blessing for the study of Torah, and we find that on page 204. And we say, "Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah." Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to engage with words of Torah. And if you turn to the next page, 206, we find words from Talmud. So at the beginning of studying Torah, we also read Torah and Talmud. We say, "These are the things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruit of the world, while the principle remains in the world to come. They are honoring one's father and mother, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study, morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedding couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer, making peace among people. But the study of Torah encompasses them all." So we have a special treat in just a little bit. So I'm going to have Braden come on up here, and he's going to help us with Ashrei in about a second. You're going to do that from up here, okay? So we're going to start with a little Shabbat Psalm 92 on page 214. So Braden, while you are making your way up, so we'll all sing the song. Ready? Mizmor shir l'yom ha-Shabbat, tov lehodot l'Adonai, u'lezamer l'shimcha elyon, u'lezamer l'shimcha elyon, להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות, עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי גיון בכינור. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון.
We will now chant the Ashrei responsibly on page 215. Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha, Od Yehalelucha Selah.
אשרי העם שככה לו, אשרי העם שאדוני אלוהיו.
Tehillah leDavid, Aromimcha Elohai HaMelech, Ve'avarcha Shimcha le'olam va'ed.
בכל יום אברכך, וללה שמך לעולם ועד.
Gadol Adonai Umhulal Me'od, Ve'likdulato Ein Cheker.
דור לדור ישבת מעשיך, וגבורותיך יגידו.
Hadar Kivot Hodecha, V'divrei Niflotecha Asicha.
וזוזנותיך יאמרו, וגדלתך אספרנה.
Zecher Rav Tuvcha Yabiu, V'tzitkatcha Yiranenu.
חנון ורחום אדוני, ערך אפיים וגול חסד.
Tov Adonai Lakol, V'rachamav al kol ma'asav.
יודוך אדוני כל מעשיך, וחסידיך יברכוך.
Kevod Malchutecha Yomeru, Ukvuratcha Yedaberu.
להודיע לבני אדם גבורותיו, וכבוד אדם מלכותו.
Malchutecha Malchut Kol Ha'olamim, Umemsheltecha Bechol Dor Vador.
סומך אדוני לכל הנופלים, וזוקף לכל הכפופים.
Enechol Elecha Yesaberu, Ve'ata noten lachem et achlam bi'ito.
פותח את ידיך, ומסביר לכל כרצון.
Tzadik Adonai Bechol Derachav, Ve'chasid Bechol Ma'asav.
קרוב אדוני לכל קורב, וכל אשר יקראוהו באמת.
Ritzon Yirei Ya'aseh, Ve'et Shavatam Yishma V'yoshiem.
שומע אדוני אל כל אוהביו, ואת כל הרשעים ישמיד.
Tehillat Adonai Yedaber Pi, V'varech Kol Basar Shem Kadsho Le'olam Va'ed.
ואנחנו נברך יה מעתה ועד עולם. Hallelujah. Yes, God, that was so
Thank
awesome.
you.
Now, you stay up. He's going to help us with the Baruch Hu in a little bit. You want to sit with Mom? Robin needed her proud mommy sitting there. She's going, oh, he's so awesome. And he is. Yeah, so thank you for sharing with that. You can stay up here if you want for a little bit. You're going to, or you can go down and come back up. Whichever is giving you more steps. I don't know if he's counting steps. Hey, we do have in the back, right where Ron is, all these timbrels and tambourines and all this stuff. So anybody wants to join in, this is a good time to do it because we're on Psalm 150, which is the last of the Psalms, and it speaks of the Kol Neshama Tehel Yah. Every voice, every spirit has a music to share and to lift up. So we've got a couple of people going back and getting the tambourines. If you want, Braden, you can get one if you want to. All right. So Psalm 150, page 218. Hallelujah, 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 El Bekocho. Hallelujah, hallelujah, Ki Auzo. Hallelujah, 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 Givorotav. Hallelujah, hallelujah, Kirogulo. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 take a shofar. Hallelujah, hallelujah, nebel bechinor. Hallelujah, 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 tov umachol. Hallelujah, hallelujah, meaning God. Hallelujah, hallelujah, tzilei shama. Hallelu, hallelu, v'tzil tzilei trua, kol neshama t'hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, kol neshama t'hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Baruch atah Adonai el melech gadol b'tishbachot el hachodaot Adon hanifalaot habocher b'shirei zimra melech el chai haolamim. Praised are you, a sovereign of wonders, crowned in adoration, delighting in song and music and celebration and praise. We thank you, God, eternal majesty. The Chatzi Kaddish is on page 224.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
אמן.
ועלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי.
בחייכון וביומכון ובחייך בית ישראל. בעגלה ובזמן קריב.
במרו.
אמן. ישמי רבה מבורך. לעלמיה יתברך.
יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קדושה
ברכו
לאלה מנחה ברכתה ושירתה
תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירם בעלמם. Amen. The call to worship is on page 226. If you're able, please rise. Come on over. Lam la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach, hamevorach leolam vaed. Hamevorach, hamevorach leolam vaed. Please remain standing as we continue with the Yotzer Or on 228. Baruch
atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Yotzer or uborei choshech, osei shalom uborei et hakol, hameir la'aretz veladarim alecha berachamim, uvtuvo mechadesh bechol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reshit, ma'arabu ma'asecha Adonai, kulam b'chokhma asita, malach ha'aretz kinyanecha, Titbarach Adonai Eloheinu al shevat ma'aseh yadecha ve'al me'orei or she'asita yefa'arucha sela or chadash al Tzion ta'ir v'nizkechu lanu mehira le'oro Baruch atah Adonai Yotzer Hama'orot.
We turn to that next page on page 230. We say together in English, how deeply you have loved us, Adonai, our God, gracing us with surpassing compassion on account of our forebears whose trust led you to teach them the laws of life. Be gracious to us, teaching us as well. O merciful one, have mercy on us by making us able to understand and discern, to heed, learn, and teach, and lovingly to observe, perform, and fulfill all that is in your Torah. ודבק לבנו במצוותיך, ויחל לבבינו, באהבה הוא יראה את שמך, ולא נבוש, ולא נקלם, ולא נקשר, לעולם ועד. ועד עינינו בתורתך, ודבק לבנו במצוותיך, ויחל לבבינו, le'ahava u'yira et shemecha.
Baruch atah Adonai, habocher be'amo Yisrael, be'ahava.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Please be seated. The Ve'ahavta is on page 234.
As we chant,
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta ba'am B'shivtecha b'beitecha u'v'lechtecha b'derech u'shofbecha u'chumecha u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha u'chavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha Leman tizkaru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'hitem kedoshim le'Elohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher hotzeiti etem me'eretz Mitzrayim Lihiyot lachem Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem Amen.
You were awesome. And
Thank you.
We still have a while to go before his bar mitzvah, another, 4 weeks or so.
After being delayed by a year.
I know, right? So go ahead and sit back with Mom, but you got to have great pride. We were awesome. Yeah. How'd he do? Right? It's pretty amazing. So let's turn to page 239. He has to get his timbrel. 239, at the very top, it talks about emet. And truth, of course. Emet. There is no place where you are not, even in the darkness, even in the wilderness, there is your word.
Emet, that pen strokes of lightning, white fire, black flame, stir the soul's passion, guide our sacred way. True and enduring is Torah.
Your truth for us is certain and established now and forevermore. Like Moses, Miriam, and all Israel, we sing out and rejoice. Mi chamocha on 240. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh. Nora tegilot osei felem, nora tegilot osei felem.
שירה חדשה שיבחו גאולים לשמך על שפת הים יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו
Adonai yimloch, Adonai yimloch, le'olam va'ed. You know the routine. We're going to rise up for Tzui Yisrael, have a time for private, silent meditation and the recitation of the Amidah. And then after everyone's finished, then together we'll chant the Avot and Gevorot and Kedusha. But for now, if you're able, please rise for the silent Amidah. Tzui Yisrael, kuma be'ezrat Yisrael, Ufteichenu mecha Yehuda v'Yisrael. Go aleinu Adonai tzavot shemo, Kedosh Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Gal Yisrael.
lefanecha, Adonai tzuri, tzuri v'gali, Adonai tzuri v'gali.
Before we rise for the Amidah, I'm going to turn your attention to page 260, just above where Susan just sang the Ehilul Adson so beautifully. Thank you. And this silent prayer here, the Elohai Nitzor Lashoni, is recited daily. And I wanted to draw attention especially to, we can look in the English, but the Hebrew is a little bit more clear. It says, God, guard my speech from evil, my lips from deception. And before those who slander me, I hold my tongue, and I will practice humility. So you start off with the sense of humility. And God, let me open up my heart so that I pursue Torah. But then it says, for all those who think evil of me, cancel their designs. All the negatives, all those who are planning, who are like Bil'am, this prophet, is sort of thematically perfect with this Torah portion. Those, there are always somebody in your life that's a chepir, right? You know what's a chepir? No, what's a chepi? No. A chepi is someone who's always giving you the tzutz, right?
What's tzutz?
Right. And well, that's from one Yiddishism to the other. Okay, someone who's an aggravation, right, to you, and a little bit more than that. Someone who's always who's knocking against you, right? And it can be worse. Sometimes you feel at work or wherever in your life that there's someone who's really trying to push your buttons. And it says, all those who are planning negative things against me, God, not in, it says here, cancel their designs and frustrate their schemes. Literally, make like dust, right? Make worthless. To make something hefer is to make them without any value whatsoever. And the kalkel, to confuse then all of their plans and designs, to cancel them out. And so you want to think, oh, I'm asking God then to sort of take my side against my enemies. But what came first? The humility, right? And if you look at that word, the hafer, from dust, if you look just a little bit above there, v'nafshi ke'afar l'kotehiyeh, make my soul almost like dust. Let my soul also be lowered so that if I'm hard on myself, who can be harder on me? Which maybe psychologists will go, yeah, it's probably not the right way of going about it. But so the paraphrase of humility is there too. That idea that no one should have power over you. And that's what Balak tried to do. Balak tried to have power over Israel through curses, through words. And we allow words to all too often rile us up and to take us off into some very negative places. And the hope is that, no, we can rise above that and defend ourselves against that. Because that is, as it is said, and it's one of the first things that my mom taught me, sticks and stones. But, that's right. So let's have words never hurt us. Either those from outside or sometimes that chepping voice inside either. So anyway, I thought it worked out perfectly from Balaam and this week's Torah portion of Balak and the words of Balaam. And if you disagree, please hold those words to yourself. Okay, page 242 we'll rise for the recitation of the Amidah. Please rise. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'Imotenu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah Ha'el HaGadol הגיבור וחנרה, אל עליון גומל חסדים טובים, וגוני הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ועמכו, ומביא גאולה לבני בניכם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר מושיע מגן, ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם בעזרת שרם. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הקהל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים. צומק נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומדום מלך, מלך ממיר ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדשים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאיכם, וכרזל זה ואמר, קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ כבודו. אדיר אדירנו אדוני אדוננו, מאדיר שמך בכל הארץ, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוקינו, הוא אבינו מלכנו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו, ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון לדור ודור. הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד לך, ונצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, ושירכך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. Please be seated, and if you don't have yet your timbrels, your tambourines, this is a good time to get them, because well, we're going to get a vote first. Vishamru or Yismechu? Who wants Yismechu? We got a couple Yismechus. Who? Any votes for Vishamru? Oh, I don't know, Jan. Sorry. Well, we did Yismechu last night. Okay. So here we go. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael Hashabbat la'asor et Hashabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
And the
top of 253, we join together. We offer thanks, O God, for this Shabbat, which unites us in faith and hope, for Shabbat holiness, which inspires sacred living, for Shabbat memories glowing even in darkness, for Shabbat peace born of friendship and love. We offer thanks and blessing, O God. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-Shabbat. Ritzei on page 255, and let us say together, Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu ba'amcha Yisrael, utfilatam ba'ahava tekabel, uti ratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha, Baruch atah Adonai shodcha levadcha b'yirah na'avod. Ever-present one, may we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayers, wherever we live, wherever we seek you, in this land, in Zion restored, in all lands. You are our God, whom alone we serve in reverence.
So hold the on page 257. We're going to turn the mic that way. Good. And so we'll go back and forth. So you guys do one, and Susan and I will do the other, and we'll all say Modim Anachnu Lach, this paraphrase of those things for which we're giving thanks. And so we'll start off. For the expanding grandeur of creation, worlds known and unknown, galaxies beyond galaxies, filling us with awe and challenging our imaginations, Modim Anachnu Lach.
For this fragile planet Earth, its times and tides, its sunsets and seasons, Modim
Anachnu Lach. For the joy of human life, its wonders and surprises, its hopes and achievements, Modim Anachnu Lach.
For human community, our common past and future hope, our oneness transcending all separation, our capacity to work for peace and justice in the midst of hostility and oppression,
Modim Anachnu Lach. For high hopes and noble causes, for faith without fanaticism, for understanding of views not shared, Modim Anachnu Lach.
for all who have labored and suffered for a fairer world, who have lived so that others might live in dignity and freedom,
Modim Anachnu Lach. For human liberties and sacred rights, for opportunities to change and grow, to affirm and choose, Modim Anachnu Lach. We pray that we may live not by our fears, but by our hopes, not by our words, but by our deeds. Blessed are you, Adonai. Your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha orcha na'el chodot. And once again with the timbrels, Sim Shalom, a song of peace. Sim Shalom, Tova uvracha. Chen v'chesed rachamim v'rachamim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol Yisrael amecha barcheinu yotzeinu kulanu kechad be'or panecha ki be'or panecha natata lanu Adonai Eloheinu. Sim Shalom, Sim Shalom, Tova uvracha, chen v'chesed rachamim v'rachamim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol Yisrael amecha Torat chayim ve'achavat chesed ve'achavat chesed u'tzedakah v'racha v'rachamim ve'chayim ve'shalom. Sim Shalom, Sim Shalom, Tova uvracha, chen v'chesed rachamim v'rachamim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol Yisrael amecha v'tov b'einecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Sim Shalom, Tova uvracha, chen v'chesed rachamim v'rachamim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol Yisrael amecha. Baruch atah Adonai hamevarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. So let's continue with the Seder Kriyat Torah, the service for reading the Torah, page 362. And again, we're going to be reading from chapter 22 of the book of Numbers. I'll give the page number for Plowed in a little bit. So as we are bringing the Torah, here's the really cool thing, though. We will actually bring the Torah, and we have a nice little hakafah. We did a little bit of that last week, and a little weave. But this week, we actually have chairs set up in a normal way. Michael Zucker, who became a bar mitzvah just a couple of weeks ago, you didn't get to carry the Torah around, did you? Come on over here. Come on up here. Yeah. This way he gets a little bit of that glory as well. And I have to call it Micah because this week's Haftarah portion is
Micah.
It's Micah, yeah. So let's put this around your shoulders are here, and so that your hands are going to be out. You're going to be carrying the heaviest of Torahs that we got, right? Okay, so we're going to be on page 362, and what do they have to do?
Please rise.
All right.
Okava
Elohim Adonai bin Kama'asecha Malchutecha Malchut Olamim Umemshaltecha Bechol Dor V'Ador Adonai Melech Adonai Malach Adonai Imlach Le'olam Va'ed Adonai Olamo Yitain Adonai Yivarech Et Amo V'Shalom Al HaRachamim Heitiv Avetzoncha Et Zion Tivnei Chomod Yerushalayim Tivnei Chomod Yerushalayim Ki B'cha Levad Batachnu Melech Eram V'Nisa Adon Olamim Ki Mitzion Tetzei Torah Ki Mitzion Tetzei Torah Udavar Adonai Yerushalayim Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah L'Amo Yisrael B'Kedushato Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo Gadlul Adonai Iti Unramama Shemo Yachdav Lecha Adonai Hagadol V'Hagavul Rav V'Hatiferet V'Hanetek V'Hod
Ki chol b'shamayim uv'aretz Ki chol b'shamayim uv'aretz Lecha Adonai hamamlacha V'hamitnaseh Lecho lerosh Al shlosha devarim Al shlosha devarim Al shlosha devarim Ha'olam omed Al shlosha devarim Al shlosha devarim Al shlosha devarim Ha'olam omed Al Torah Ve'al Avodah Ve'al Gemilut Chasadim Al Torah Ve'al Avodah Ve'al Gemilut Chasadim Al Torah Ve'al Avodah Ve'al Gemilut Chasadim Al Torah Ve'al Avodah Ve'al Gemilut Chasadim.
Please be seated. So I already gave you a little bit of information. Wasn't he great, little Micah? That's awesome. Wonderful. So in your plowed commentary, you can find it on page 1050. We're going to be reading from the very beginning of this week's Torah portion, chapter 22. Starts with verse 2, actually. And again, as I mentioned, here was Balak, king of Moab, and he had heard about the Israelites who are coming through the wilderness. Now, he knew them as this horde coming through the wilderness. 40 years we'd been there, and hadn't been easy, as you know, reading all of the crises that they had faced. And he was worried, and the Torah portion will get into the details of it. He called out to Midian, and it's not clear so much from this passage, but from other places in the Torah and the Tanakh, we know that Moab and Midian were enemies. They were always battling one and the other. But this time they sort of combined forces in order to attack Israel. Common enemies who found a third target for themselves, and that's Israel. And still they realized that, well, the Israelites had overcome these other kings, these other empires, and we are going to call upon a different kind of power, not just military power. We're going to call upon the power of cursing, of bringing bad mojo down on Israel. So they went out to Bil'am, who was paid to curse them. And that's this week's portion, and we'll see how we go. I may swing by that last little section here with Matovu. So for the first Aliyah, we'd like to call up Alan Markman to the Torah. Yamov Rishon Aharon Lev Ben Nachman. Hold on, let me get to that.
Baruch et Adonai HaVorach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaVorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam. Sher b'char banu mikol amin v'notan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. V'yad Balak ben Zippor, and Balak, who was the son of Zippor, et kol asher asa Yisrael le'amorim. Once he saw that all that the Israelites had done against the Amorites, v'yagor Moav mipnei ha'am od ki rav hu v'yakotz Moab mipnei b'nei Yisrael. Said that he had saw all that the Israelites had done to the Amorites, and the Amorites were much more powerful than the Moabites and Midianites. And the Yagor, he was afraid. Not just afraid, it says, Mo'od, he was very afraid. Ki ravhu, because he saw that the Israelites were greater than what he could muster. The Yakot, again, he was filled with dread. All of the Moabites were filled with dread from before the Israelites. V'yomer Moav el zignei Midian. So therefore, the Moabites sent out dignitaries, messengers to the elders of Midian, their normal enemies, and said, "Ata yelachachu hakahal et kol sevivotenu kilchok hashor et yerek hasadeh." This people that he doesn't call them Israelites here. He says, this congregation will lick up all that is around us, just like a shore, just like an ox licks up all the grass of the field, indiscriminately taking up everything that it could. It said, Uvalak ben Zippor melech Moav, and therefore Balak, the son of Zippor, the king of Moab, be'ed hahi at that time, v'yishlach melachim el Bil'am ben Ba'or Petura asher al hana'ar eretz b'nei Amo, and therefore Balak was the son of Ba'or and son of Zippor, the king of Moab, at that time sent out messengers to Bil'am, who's Bil'am, was the son of Ba'or, at Petura. Petura, it could be just the name of a place, or it could be a region where all these sorcerers, all these seers and men and women who had divination skills called upon them, so that this specific Petura, they even give you the exact location, which was by the river and the land of his people, Al Hana'ar, that to be the land of Necharim, the Mesopotamia, that some place between the Euphrates and the Tigris. And Likrolo called upon him, Lemor, to say to him, Hine, there's a people that came out of Egypt. Hine kisa et ein haaretz. And now they are covering up the whole face of the earth. And one day this people may dwell right next to me. Vata lechana aralini et ha'am chazeh. And therefore come now. Arali et ha'am. Curse this people. Hazeh, this people, for my sake. Ki atzum hu mimeni, because they're stronger than me. Ulai uchal nakebo. Maybe together we can strike against this people. The gerashtiv, the gerashnu min haaretz, because if we do so, maybe that will cause them to flee from this land. Ki yadati et asher tivarech mivorach, v'asher ta'or you are. Because I know that the ones you bless will be blessed, and the ones that you curse will be cursed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher natan lanu Torah temet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Good to have you up here. And he's going to be reading Torah in a little bit. But you guys can too if you ask nicely. All right, for the second Aliyah, Justin Cowles is going to recite blessing. Yamdu Sheni Yehuda ben Avraham v'Saram. Very cool. Right here, buddy. Beautiful, right there.
Bariku et Adonai hamevorach.
Baruch Adonai Barach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bakar banu mikol ha'amim ve'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Justin, why don't you hold one side? So, V'yelchu ziknei Moab, and so the elders of Moab, v'ziknei Midian, and the elders of the Midianites went, uksamim b'yadam, and they had in their hands these, there's all kinds of different commentary on it. What are the uksamim? It could be sorcerers' tools, the things that they would use to bring a curse. And others say, no, there were the books that they plowed. You're looking like, it sounds like a little Harry Potter thing, right? He's got his magic spells. And others say, no. What they really had was payment for Bil'am. Regardless, what they had in their hands was up to no good. V'yavo el Bil'am. They eventually came to Bil'am. V'dabru elav, and they said to him, divrei Balak, all the words of Balak. V'yomer alechem, and Balaam responded to them, linu fo halayla, come spend the night here. V'hashivoti etchem daber devar ka'asher yidaber Adonai. Then I'll return to you the word that the Lord is going to share unto me. V'yeshvu sarei Moab im Bil'am, and so the dignitaries of the Moabites spent the night with him. Now it doesn't say that the Midianites stayed with him, so maybe they didn't have enough up front. They had to stay in the back. Who knows? V'yavo Elohim el Bil'am, and then God came to Bil'am, and v'yomer, and this is what God said. So who are these people with you? Who are these men that are coming with you? Bilam, and Bilam said, El ha'Elohim, to God. Balak ben Zippor melech Moab shalach elai hinei ha'am ha'yotzei mimitzrayim v'yichaset ein ha'aretz ata lecha kavali oto Ulai uchal lehilachem bo v'gerashtiv. I said, well, these people are coming from, our messengers from Moab and from Balak, the king of Zippor, the son of Zippor, the king of the Moabites. They were sent to me because he said that there's a people that have come out of Egypt and they're covering the land, and he's called upon me to kavali. Now, the commentators say, well, actually, Balak had said arali, which is a curse. Kavali is understood to be even a worse kind of curse. So Bilam is upping the ante. And he says, perhaps we, with our curses, will be able to then fight against these people and cause them to flee. Vayomer Elohim el Bilam. And God then said to Bilam, Lo telech imachem. Do not go with them. Lo ta'or et ha'am. And you will not, you may not curse this people. Ki varuchu. Because they are blessed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher natan lanu Torat emet dakayeh olam nata betukenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Thank you, Jesse. Come on over here for that one. Yeah. And now for that third aliyah, we're going to call upon Karen Fisher. Yay. Ya tamo shlishit Esther bad Yaakov Saraham. And as promised, I'll get you that special section. Oh, sorry. Hold on. I went a little bit too far. Hold on. Here we go. Okay, right here.
Baruch et Adonai Hamorach.
Baruch Adonai Barak le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Now this is chapter 24. What page would this be on? Yeah.
It's on page 1057.
Good. So this is what it says. You guys, in the meanwhile, Bilam keeps setting up these, is convinced to go eventually, because he says no to the first delegation. Balak then sends another delegation with even more money, pays him off, and God says, oh, you're so insistent on going to do this evil thing? All right, you go, but you're only going to say what I'm going to tell you to say. So he went, and Bilam, on his way, was riding on a she-ass, and the donkey was able to see this angel of God saying, don't do it, don't do it. But Bilam could not, and so that's a famous story of the talking ass that was not Wilbur, that could see this angel, but not. She said, well, who's Wilbur? You have to tell him. But that was a horse. I was a horse, of course. It was anyway, so there's some comic relief in this Torah portion, but he keeps setting up this altar in different places to curse Israel, but out of his mouth comes instead blessings. And finally, we get to this section. V'yarav Bilam ki tov be'enei Adonai levarech et Yisrael. Finally, it occurred to Bilam that it was good in God's eyes only to bless Israel. V'lo halach kefa'am b'fa'am. And so therefore, he didn't go as he did before, relying likrat nechashim, relying just on his sorcerer's tricks, on his bag of cursing elements. Rather, v'yaset el hamidbar. This time he turned and he faced the wilderness to where the Sinai, wherever the children of Israel were dwelling, and fanav, and he turned to face it. V'yisab Bilam et einav, and then Bilam lifted up his eyes. V'yar et Yisrael, and he saw Israel for the first time, instead of looking at the black magic. Now, the sorcerers in those times would look at all kinds of things. They'd look at certain animals that they had sacrificed. They'd look at the liver, they'd look at the entrails, they would look at how the blood looked at all kinds of things. His face was down in all kind of his tricks. Finally, he turned and he faced the wilderness and opened his eyes and he saw Israel for the first time. Shochen l'shvatav, and all of the tribes by tribe with all of their dwelling places out. Vadihi alav ruach Elohim, and then the Spirit of God came unto Bil'am, this evil prophet, and he was filled with a whole new sense. V'yisam mish'alo, and he raised up this teaching. V'yomer Bil'am b'no be'or, hageber shetum ha'ayin, shomea imre'el, asher mechazer shaddai chazer, nofel v'galui anayim. This is the word from Bil'am, the son of Beor. This is the word of the man whose eyes, once closed, are now open. This is the word of the one who has heard God and whose vision from the Almighty is now the vision which of the one who had been once fallen, prostrate, now my eyes are open, and I say, Ma tovu ohelecha Yaakov mishkanotecha Yisrael. How goodly are your tents, O Jacob, and your dwelling places, O Israel.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Wonderful. Thank you again. So let's go ahead and turn our pages to page 371 with again turning a curse, turning the negativity into a positive. Let us find blessings for those who are struggling with their health. On page 371, we find those blessings. And I mentioned, as I do at all the services, those who's given me permission to share their names in public. And if you'd like a name added, please let me know. And sometimes they say, take my name off, and I do. Ryan Albert, Clara Aronoff, Mike Babbage, Stan and Sandra Bauer, Andy Bean, Samantha Bernstein, Steve Bolcom, Harold Cohen, Joseph Michael Connor, Cindy Coons, Maxine Dell, Frank and Aaron DeSena, Marty Einhorn, Ron Epstein, Stan Farber, Harriet Feld, Lauren Fishbein, Jack Fisher, Morris Ginsberg, Marlene Gottleman, Jeremy Gold, Ellen and Erica Gulnick, Kathy Grazi, Jerry Hart, Josh Hepner, Miriam Koopman, Gary Hoskins, Glenn and Cameron Hostetler, Oliver Jack, Steve Kofler, Arnie Lash, Lori Lavenhar, Fred and Judy Lazar, Audrey Lazar, Adrian Levy, David Levy, Juanita Lorenco, Dina Marks, Marianne May, Hugh Miles, Nevitt Montgomery, Atlas Murphy, Diane Cushman-Neal, Cindy Noko, Dee Brooks, Raphael Ruvain Benfega, Jane and Sam Potter, Sarah Purdon, Bud Rittenberg, Bernie Rogoff, Alan Rosenberg, Donna Santasavan, Diana Sevilla, John Schuler, Dan Callista Schwartz, Raj Schwartz, Mark Shaner, Norm Sheldon, Joshua Singer, Mark Sorkin, Sheldon Sperling, Ed Steinberg, Hal Tabak, Susan Tandler, Bernie Tobin, Stan Ullman, Marlene Waldbaum, Valerie Wasserman, Dorothy Whitty, Eden Winnick, Jill Witchlands, Jim Wilson, Art Wolfson, Elaine Yaffe, Esther Jenkinson, Aiden Zenon, and some of you guys have been in my prayers too, but I was told not to have your name in public. Who else would like me to mention the names, please? Neil Brooks and Barbara Sugarman. Alan? Fred Schneider. Others? Lisa Stoiberg and Teresa Neal. Ali Canova. Thank you. David Donzucker. Okay. Others? For those mentioned and those who are in your heart, please let them know that we've been thinking of them and we'll share these prayers of healing. Page 371. Mishe berach avotenu mikor chabracha leimotenu. Bless the source of strength, who bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi shebeirach imotenu, mikor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. And all those who've come up for the Torah, we say, may the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, bless all those who have come up to the Torah in honor of God and Torah. May they merit from the Holy One of blessing protection, rescue from any trouble or distress, from any illness, minor or serious. May God send blessing and success in their every endeavor, together with all Israel, and let us say, Amen. So we're going to raise the Torah to show you where we've read, and as we do, if you're able, would you please rise? וזאת התורה שהייתה משה לפני בני ישראל עדי אדוני ביד משה יא לי 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 וזאת התורה שעשה משה לפני בני ישראל על פי
Bobby Kramer this morning will be leading the Haftarah.
Yay.
Okay, so the Haftarah will be on in the plot on page 1069, and it's Micah starting verse 5, chapter 5, verse 6 for those at home who might be using something else. And my drash today is going to center around one word, and that's justified. And I'll tell you about that in a minute. This Sidra tells the story of King Balak of Moab. The Sidra tells, we talked about, of Balak. The Haftarah refers to it at the very end, but everything I read kept talking about the Haftarah is about Balak. Well, it's not about Balak as much as it is about the fact that Micah was convinced that unless Judah's leaders mended their ways, they would disappear like Israel did. And so he goes through what God can do, what God has done for us, what God can do for us, what God will do if we don't do what's right. And that gets us to the very end where it says, "It has been told to you, O mortal, what is good and what the Eternal requires of you. Only this, to do justly and love mercy and walk humbly with your God." And again, he reinforces, it doesn't matter how many sacrifices you do. And I was thinking in terms of modern times. It doesn't matter how much you go to synagogue or how much you give to charity. If you're not living your life in the correct way, and that brought me to my own life, and I was thinking about how in the past couple of weeks, they called me to tell me I have a prescription due. Have I picked it up yet? No. And I thought, and I was thinking today, that's not right. These people are doing their job. They got it out in a timely manner. Why am I procrastinating? Why am I not going to pick it up? And then it also reminded me I've been invited to a couple of events where I need to RSVP. Now, I have RSVP'd, but I waited till the last minute. Why, when I knew as soon as I got the invitation that I was going to do this, did I procrastinate? And I still haven't figured that out. But that's the part that I think when he talks about only do this to do justly. That's the justly. That's where we have to live our lives with integrity. We have to keep our appointments. We have to get our prescriptions. And we shouldn't just take things for granted and do these other things and think, okay, well, that's going to take care of it. No, we have to be responsible, and that's what I feel he means by being justly.
Yes, thank you.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher barachar b'neviim tovim v'ratzah v'divreihem hanemarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah u'v'Moshe avdo u'v'Yisrael amo u'v'neviei hamet v'tzedek. The remnant of Jacob shall be among the many nations like dewdrops from the eternal, like showers on the grass, which don't tarry for mortals or wait for human beings. The remnant of Jacob shall be among the nations in the midst of many peoples, like a lion among the animals of the forest, a young lion among flocks of sheep, that roams and tramples and tears, with none to save. Your hand shall overcome your foes, your enemies shall all be cut off. On that day, says the Eternal One, I will cut off your war horses from your midst and do away with your chariots. I will cut off the cities of your lands and tear down all your fortresses. I will cut off all the sorceries you practice. No longer shall you have soothsayers. I will cut off your idols and pillars from your midst. No longer shall you bow down to the work of your hands. I will uproot the Asherim from your midst. I will destroy your idols. In anger and wrath I will execute vengeance upon the nations that did not obey me. Hear now what the Eternal is saying. Rise, put your case to the mountains. Let the hills hear your voice. Hear the case of the Eternal, you mountains. Give ear, you foundations of the earth. The Eternal has a case against our people and will contend with Israel. My people, what wrong have I done to you? Have I exhausted your patience? Answer me. In fact, I brought you up from the land of Egypt, redeemed you from the house of bondage, and sent Moses, Aaron, and Miriam to lead you. My people, remember what Balak, king of Moab, planned, and how Balaam, son of Beor, answered him. Remember your journey from She'im to Gilgal, and you understand God's victorious acts. With what should I come to the Eternal and bow down before God on high? Should I come before God with burnt offerings and yearly calves? Would the Eternal be pleased with thousands of rams, with 10,000 rivers of oil? Should I give my firstborn for my transgression, and the fruit of my body for my own sin? It has been told to you, O mortal, what is good, and what the Eternal requires of you. Only this, to do justly, and love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, sur kol haolamim, tzaddik b'chol hadorot, ha'el hane'eman ha'omer v'yoseh, ha'medaber u'mekayim, shechol devarav emet v'tzedek, al ha'torah v'al ha'avodah v'al ha'neviim v'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh, shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu, l'kdusha u'limnucha, lechavod u'tiferet. Al kol Adonai Eloheinu anachnu modim lach, uvarchim otach, yitbarach shimcha b'fi kol hai tamid le'olam ba'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, mikadesh hashabbat.
Amen, Bobby, that was absolutely wonderful. Thank you, honey. So if you could rise, we're going to return the Torah to the Rona Kodesh, page 374 and 5. Etz Chaim hi l'machazikim bam betom cheyam me'ushar l'rachea darchei noam v'chonet chiboteha shalom. Hashivano Adonai אליך ונשובה חדש חדש ימינו חדש ימינו כקדם. Aleinu is on page 586. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשינו כגויי הרצון, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל המוענם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי מלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהונות השמיים ויוצר הארץ ומושב וקרוב בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת זו בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד אמת מלכנו וזולתו, כך כתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת עינות, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. The Kedisha tome is on page 598. We think of those who have died most recently within the last 30 days. Bernard Slovit, the father of Mitch and Beth Slovit. Arlene Robbie, the mother of Mindy and her Kelly Green. Norma Wolf, mother of Don Wolf-Spector. Bob Frischman, the partner of Roberta Greengard. We also think of those who have died at this season in years past. Joshua Aronoff, Larry Berman, Bob Bragg, Lillian Bruck, Celia Casp, Hyman Cintron, Rosalind Fishbein, Joseph Fleming, Goldie Goldberg, Ron Goldberg, Carlton Goodman, Theodore Green, Colonel Robert Brandt Greenberg, Frederick Hofeld, Susan Jonas, Julius Katzman, Maxine Katzen, Elsie Kodak, Ilya Krasnitsky, Carol Lash, Ralph Levy, Larry Meskin, Alan Moline, Marilyn Mozzadi, Patricia Pionke, Sam Robbins, Freda Roseman, Beverly Rosenberg, Bobby Rolfline, Joan Sapiro, Sam Siegel, Ruth Sharon, Arthur Schenken, William Silverman, Celia Sunshine, Max Ehrman, Paul Wasserstein, and Aaron Zukowicki. Are there others who are observing a yard site that we make sure to mention their names? So let's honor the memories of those who have passed before us as we say, Yitgadal v'yitkadal shemei rabbah, be'alma devrach otei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomeyachon v'chayedecha be'Israel, ba'agala v'zman kari v'imru, amen. Yehi shemei rabbah mevorach le'olam alamei amaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'ba'ar v'dromam v'yitnaseh, v'tadar v'taleh v'talal shmei dekodesha b'richu, ve'elam en kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiram be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehi shalom rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu, v'akol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, v'yasei shalom aleinu, v'akol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Please be seated for just a few moments. I want to make a few important announcements, one of which is, of course, you guys know that we are having our full capacity, and if you're vaccinated, don't wear a mask. Come and enjoy. Of course, if you are suffering from a cold, then put on a mask or whatever. And so, in this morning minion, which is it's a wonderful partnership with both clergy and the whole congregation. One of the things that really has been missing the last year plus has been the participation of you. And so what we'd love to have is you let us know when there's a time that you want to help lead the service. There'll always be a clergy person here, so you wouldn't lead the service all by yourself. We'll always have a clergy here, so we'll partner on that. But there are also roles for Torah reading, a Haftarah, and the Haftarah can be in either Hebrew or in English. And of course, if you don't want to prepare, there's also a Devar Torah, a lesson that you can bring, just as Bobby shared so beautifully earlier. So there's lots of roles of participation, and it could be anytime you want, just let us know, and Rabbi Coleman and I will put you down the list. And of course, if you need help preparing for a Torah portion or whatever, we'll be able to find that as well. I want to point out Rabbi David Zucker, who is the proud grandfather of Micah. I saw in the IJN that you are teaching a very special course July 11th, I believe, on Jews of on the Inquisition or Sephardic Judaism. Well, it's in the IGN. You got a nice cover. What? Yeah. The Spanish Inquisition, and they're not going to sing the Mel Brooks songs. It's the Inquisition. Okay, we're not going to go there. But anyway, I always love it when you teach. You always bring a lot of wonderful things. So, any other important announcements? Next Friday, of course, at 6 o'clock, we have Tuesday Parshat Shavua, Thursday Lunch and Learn. Rabbi Coleman and I, each day there's something wonderful that there's coming on. So look at the daily dockets for all of that stuff. And with that, Ron, is it too late for anyone to sign up for religious school next year? No, there's always room. So with that, I'm going to be meeting with Dr. Sean and Rich in just a little bit, and over a new baby that's coming along. That's wonderful, too. So is that Alfie? God bless him. Look how big and strong. Yay. All right, so let's have as our closing song. What do you think, honey?
You pick it.
I think, can there ever be anything as strong and wonderful as Ein Eloheinu? Right?
Page
Ein
626.
Ein Kadoneinu, Ein Gemalkeinu, Ein Gemalkeinu, Ein Eloheinu, Mi Chadonenu, Mi Gemalkeinu, Mi Chemoshienu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Malkeinu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu. Since this is a Shabbat of blessings, let us conclude with a blessing. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Ye'er Adonai panav alecha v'choneka. Yisad Adonai panav alecha v'yisem lecha shalom. May God bless you and protect you. May God's light shine upon you so you feel God's grace and blessing. And may God grant each of you the blessing of shalom, of wholeness, peace, contentedness, good health, and happiness. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.